Toan decided to let go. The truth behind makes everyone shocked. Toan silently looked at Toan standing in front of him. His eyes were full of torment and regret. Finally, after so much effort, after many times of holding on, he decided to let go. Toan, I can't go on anymore. Toan's voice dropped. Every word is like a knife cutting into my heart. Toan was surprised. She never thought that one day Toan would give up so easily. Aren't you always the steadfast one? Is the one who defies everything to keep his love? Or what? Toan, why, what happened? Toan did not answer immediately. He bowed his head. Hand-clenched eyes flashed a ray of pain. Finally, he said slowly, there are things you shouldn't know. But if I knew the truth, maybe I will never forgive you. A chill ran down Toan's spine. What is the truth that all are talking about? Is it related to you, to Jack, or some secret that has never been revealed? The truth behind makes everyone shocked. In just one evening, everything turned upside down. Events that seemed to have passed. Buried secrets suddenly exposed. Jack the Baptist and all around were all caught up in an unexpected truth. So what is the truth? And how Toan reacted when he knew everything would turn out. Unfinished words. Toan felt her heart tighten when hearing Toan's sorrowful voice. Shock was evident in her eyes. What are you talking about? Why can't I know? All was silent for a long time. Finally, he smiled faintly, but there was no joy in his eyes. Because you did it wrong from the start, and I have the right not to forgive you. Having said this, Toan turned and left. He didn't want to see her questioning eyes. I also don't want her to see my weakness right now. But when he had just taken a few steps, Toan's voice rang out with determination. If you don't make it clear, I won't let you go. Toan stopped. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he turned back, his voice dropped. Okay, if you want to know the truth, then prepare yourself. Shocking secret. And looked straight into Toan's eyes and slowly said each word. Do you remember the accident 7 years ago? Toan paused. Of course she remembers. It was a terrible accident. Caused a man to lose his life. And changed the lives of many people. You mean Jack's dad's accident? She asked with a trembling voice. Toan nodded. He clenched his hands, trying to control his surging emotions. The person behind the accident was his mother. The words struck like thunder, leaving Toan speechless. No way. She shook her head repeatedly, as if she couldn't believe her ears. But Toan did not stop, he continued. She drove drunk. But because the power is in the hands of the family, he hid the truth. Blame an anonymous person. Oh, everyone thought it was a normal accident. But it is actually a crime. Toan stood frozen. She never thought the truth would be so terrible. Toan, why did you just tell me now? Toan closed his eyes and smiled bitterly. Because I love you and I'm selfish. I don't want you to leave me because of this truth. Toan felt her body tremble. She couldn't believe the man in front of her, the person who always cares and protects her, is hiding such a cruel secret. If Jack knew about this, how would he react? Between love and truth, Toan took a step back. Her heart was filled with conflict. One side is love for Toan. One side is the painful truth, related to leading the person she loves. Do you ever regret it? Toan was silent for a long time, then nodded slightly. There are so many, so what are you going to do? Tightly clasped hands, eyes determined. I will confess everything. Let Jack know the truth, and so I don't have to suffer anymore. This time it was Toan's turn to be shocked. If you do that, your mother will. I know, all cut in firmly. But this is what you have to do. Between love and truth, I chose to let go. But will his decision change everything? And when Jack finds out this secret, where will things go? Face to face with Jack, Toan walked out of his office. With a heavy heart, he knew that this decision would change everything. Not just my life, but also his relationship with Jack and Toan. But this is what you have to do. That evening, I made an appointment to meet Jack at a quiet cafe. When Jack arrived, his eyes were still cold as ever. What are you doing here? Probably asked in a tone that was not sympathetic. Took a deep breath and said slowly, I have something to tell you. A truth that I have hidden for the past 7 years. Jack raised an eyebrow, but still didn't seem too concerned. I don't have time for nonsense. CEO Toan, this is about your dad. Jack immediately became tense. He put the coffee cup down on the table, sharp eyes staring at everything. Speak clearly. Toan clenched his fist, as if mustering up the courage to speak the truth. The person who caused the accident that year was not an unknown person that the police announced. That's my mother. Space seems to stop. Jack was stunned, his eyes flashing with anger. What? I could feel a strong pressure radiating from Jack. But he continued. She drove drunk. My family used power to cover up the truth. Push the blame on an innocent person. Jack stood up, his eyes red with anger. Are you kidding me? Toan still sat looking straight into Jack's eyes. I'm not kidding. I have checked all the records again. Found evidence that my family had arranged everything. If you want, I will give it all to you. I will bring my mother to justice. Jack gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. He couldn't believe what he just heard. Over the years, he always thought that the accident was an accident, a random misfortune. But it turns out the truth is much more cruel. You think, just tell me the truth, and I will forgive you. Jack said in a low voice. Toan shook his head. No, I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to know the truth and decide what to do. Jack smiled coldly, but his eyes were filled with pain. What will I do? Let me tell you. I will not let this sink in again. After saying that, he probably turned around and left, leaving Toy sitting there alone. When Toan heard that Jack knew the truth, she immediately ran to find him. But when we got there, she saw Jack standing silently by the roadside. Empty eyes. Jack called softly. He turned to look at her, but his eyes were cold as ice. Toan, you knew this before, right? Toan bit her lip. Her heart felt like it was being squeezed. Jack, I just found out recently, and I was just as shocked as you. Jack smiled faintly. So why don't you tell me? She was silent. She had no answer. Jack looked at her for a long time, then turned and walked away. Jack, listen to me. Toan ran to hold his hand. Jack stopped, but did not turn around. His voice was low but full of pain. Whose side are you on, Toan? The question left her speechless. Toan has decided to let go. Tay is probably drowning in hatred. What should I do? Continued. The decision of the immortal. Toan held Jack's hand tightly, but he gently removed it. His eyes full of hurt. Jack, I'm not on anyone's side. I just want you to calm down. Jack smirked, but his eyes contained deep pain. Calm down after knowing this truth. What do you want me to do? Forgive me. Toan shook her head, her voice trembling. No, I just want you to think carefully. If you want to sue her, I won't stop you. But I don't want you to be swallowed by hatred. Jack was silent. He was not one to be swayed. But when faced with Toan's sincere eyes, I feel my heart waver. I need time. Jack said, then turned and left. Toan looked at his back, her heart filled with worry. She knew Jack wouldn't let this go. But if you get caught up in the cycle of revenge, is he still the Jack she loves? 2 days later, Jack appeared at Toan's office. He threw a file on the table. Toan, here is all the evidence of the accident. I will bring it to court. Toan lifted the file up, looked it over, and nodded. I predicted this. Jack frowned. Aren't you going to stop me? Toan put the documents on the table with a calm look. I told you I don't expect your forgiveness. I just want the truth to come out. If my mother makes a mistake, she must take responsibility. Jack clenched his fists. Unexpected. Toan accepted this so easily. You really think to let your mother go to court will help you make up for your mistakes? Toan looked at Jack, his voice lowered. No, but it's the only thing I can do. Jack smiled faintly. Then you prepare to go. I will not stop you. Toan said nothing, just silently watched Jack's back. He knew this battle was inevitable. Toan found Toan right after Jack left. Are you really going to let Jack sue your mother? Toan looked at her with a bit of tired eyes. The law needs to be fair. Toan. She bit her lip, her hands clenched into fists. But do you think about the consequences? It will not stop. He can destroy his whole family. Toan closed his eyes and slowly said, if that's what he wants, I'll accept it. Toan shook her head, tears falling down. I don't want this to happen. Toan looked at her deeply and then smiled sadly. Toan, are you worried about Jack or about me? She bit her lip and did not answer. Toan stepped closer to her, his voice lowered. If you really want to stop this, there is only one way. Toan looked up at him. How? And looked deep into her eyes and said slowly, stay with me. Toan was stunned. Her heart stopped beating. He continued, if you choose me, I will have a reason to protect my mother. I will have reason to stop. Toan took a step back. She couldn't believe that he would set such a condition. Are you forcing me? Toan smiled lightly, but his smile was full of bitterness. Or not. I'm just giving you a choice. The decision is yours. Toan stood there, her heart in turmoil. If she was with Toan, can she stop Jack and save Toan's family? But if she did, she would lose Jack forever. everything you think you know about. Death is a lie, you've heard the theories. Heaven, reincarnation, nothingness, but if you've ever felt like none of them tell the whole story, you're right, because over 1,000 years ago, a manuscript was hidden from the world. It's called the Bardo Thal. The West calls it the Tibetan Book of the Dead. This is a step-by-step survival guide for the afterlife, and if what it says is true, then the moment you die is not the end. And here's the part no one's told you: you've already failed it thousands of times. You've died before. You just don't remember, and if nothing changes, if you don't wake up right now, you'll do it again. So what exactly does this book say happens after death? According to the Bardo Thodol, the moment your heart stops, you're not gone. You're in something called the Chai Bardo, the first phase after death. It's instant. It's silent, but it's not empty. In this moment, you're shown the clear light, a flash of pure awareness. And if you can recognize that light as your true nature, you're free. No more rebirth, no more cycle, liberation right there, but almost no one sees it. Why? Because the mind isn't ready. It's still clinging, still confused. Most people miss it and move to the next stage. That's where things get complicated. What follows is a 7-day journey through different states of consciousness, each more disorienting, symbolic, and deceptive than the last. Visions appear, emotions intensify. You'll see peaceful deities, wrathful ones. You might think it's heaven or hell, but it's all a projection of your own mind. And if you don't know that, if you believe what you're seeing is real, you're pulled right back into another life, another round, another forgetful death. But here's the twist: this isn't just about what happens after you die, it's about what's happening right now, because every moment you miss that awareness, you're still in the Bardo, and the more you understand it now, the more prepared you are, not just to face death, but to actually escape the loop you missed the first moment, that instant after death, where the light of pure awareness appears past you. Hesitated, clung to your identity, and that hesitation closed the first door. Now the second stage begins. This is where the mind takes over. No longer grounded in a body, your consciousness starts doing what it's always done. It creates, but instead of recreating the physical world, it generates something else, something more symbolic. It builds experiences out of your emotions, beliefs, attachments, and fears. And because there's no body or external reality to anchor you, these mental projections feel real. This stage is called the Choni Bardo, the Bardo of visions, and this is where most people get lost. You'll start to see visions, some peaceful, some terrifying, but they're not random. They're personalized. They reflect your own mind. Magnified, many of these visions take the form of divine beings, what the Tibetan tradition calls deities. They're massive, luminous, and deeply symbolic. But here's the key: they're not gods watching over you. They're parts of you, fragments of your mind appearing in forms you'll respond to based on what you believe, what you fear, and what you still identify with. The first being you meet is Vairocana, surrounded by pure white light. He doesn't speak, he doesn't move, because he doesn't need to. That white light is not decoration. It represents the ultimate truth, your original undistorted awareness. And if you can recognize it, truly recognize it, the cycle ends. You wake up right there. But most people don't. They flinch, because standing in that light strips away everything false. It shows you what you are without your story, your name, your ego. And if you're not ready to let all that go, the mind pulls you towards something else. That's when a second light appears. It's dimmer, warmer, more familiar. It gives you a sense of identity. It feels safer. That's the light of rebirth. And here's the critical part: this moment is a test, but it doesn't feel like one. It feels like a choice, a small emotional reaction, a preference. But the stakes are massive. If you follow the softer light, you go back into the cycle, another body, another forgetting, another chance. You may never even realize you had everything. That comes next will feel more comforting, more convincing, more like you, but it's not real in the way you think. It's a system designed to keep you asleep. Recognizing that right now, as you're watching this, is the first step to breaking out, because if this text is right, you'll be here again, and next time you might remember day 3. By now the pattern is clear. You have shown the truth, and you looked away 3 times, and now things escalate. You're still in the second phase, but everything is tightening. The space, sir, you, the thoughts within you, the weight of your own mind. Now you're being pulled not by some force in the sky, by you, by every unresolved thing you carried through life. but never faced, and in this space there's no place to hide. From it, here's the part no one tells you. This stage isn't about death, it's about honesty. It's the part of the journey where you're forced to see what's actually been driving you your entire life, beneath the personality, beneath the performance. And here's what it looks like. You're confronted by a presence not beautiful, not terrifying, just still, and in that stillness it reflects everything. There's no language, no emotion, just a mirror, one that shows you exactly what you are, without filters, without the story, all the stuff you avoided, the versions of yourself you curated for brothers, the real motivations behind your good decisions, the anger you swallowed, the guilt you buried, the pain you blamed on other people. It's all here now, and there's no one else in the room. And in front of you there's a light. It's the way out, but it doesn't feel like salvation. It feels like standing naked in front of something that sees everything, because it does. And here's the thing, you've already experienced this before. Every time you've stared at yourself in the mirror and couldn't meet your own eyes, every moment of silence that made you uncomfortable, every relationship that collapsed under truth you didn't want to speak. This is that turn up to maximum volume, not punishment, just accuracy. And once again you hesitate, so the mind creates an alternative, a second light. It's not brighter, it's not cleaner, it's heavier, denser, lower, but it feels more familiar. It hums with the emotions you never fully owned: rage, blame, resentment. It says you don't have to look at yourself, just go here, start over, be someone else again. And many do, because that second light doesn't feel like a trap, it feels like relief. But the cost, it's steep. You're not just going back into a body, you're going into a life shaped by everything you refuse to face. Harder circumstances, more confusion, less clarity, not because you're being punished, because that's what still resonates with you. This is the test, not of morality, not of belief, of awareness. Will you keep running from yourself, or will you finally admit everything you're seeing is you? And here's the real world connection. This isn't just what happens after death, it's what happens every day, in moments when truth shows up and you look away, when you know something's off but you stay quiet, when you feel the pull to grow but you choose comfort instead. This moment is just the final version of a choice you've made 1,000 times before, and the more you delay here, the more convincing the illusion becomes. Each light you follow turns into another distraction, each escape route becomes another loop. So if you're still here, if you've made it this far, remember the door is still open, but you've ignored it 3 times in day 4 is coming. More pressure, more pull, less time. You're running out of chances, and the system won't stop until you do. Day 4. At this point the tone shifts subtly at first, then all at once. The earlier stages try to help you. They showed you truth, they gave you exits, but you didn't take them. Now the system stops being gentle, and here's where it gets uncomfortable. Your own mind starts turning against you, not violently, not obviously. It does something worse. It brings up pride, not the good kind, the kind that got you through hard things, the other kind, the kind that made you hold back when you knew you were wrong, the kind that kept you chasing more even when you had enough, the kind that convinced you the version of you people admired was the only version worth showing. And here's what happens: that pride starts rising. You feel powerful, like you've accomplished something, like you matter. Maybe you remember moments, closing the deal, getting the promotion, buying the car, earning respect. You feel that same energy come back, and for a second it feels like you're winning. But that's the trap, because in this space ego doesn't make you stronger, it makes you visible. And the more visible you become, the more pressure builds. This stage doesn't respond to who you think you are, it responds to what's active ally driving you. And if what's underneath the pride is insecurity, fear of irrelevance, fear of being forgotten, this stage brings that up far. Suddenly you're pulled in 2 directions. You want to stand tall to prove you still have value, but at the same time you feel the weight of every moment where that pride cost you something: connection, honesty, peace of mind. And right when you start to feel that conflict, another light shows up. It's dull, heavy, familiar, and it pulls you in a different direction. It feels like longing, wanting something you can't quite name, another chance, another shot, a new identity. It's the same feeling that drove 1,000 decisions, staying in the job longer than you should have, trying to impress people who stopped watching years ago, trying to outrun the feeling that deep down it still wasn't Enough, that's what this space feeds on. Not violence, not chaos craving, it gives you the feeling of almost having what you want, just enough to keep you reaching, but never enough to satisfy. And that's the point. This is the place where you can chase forever and never arrive. You reach for relief and you get more need. You reach for meaning and you get more confusion. You reach for control and you get more weight. And here's the truth: most people don't want to admit you've been here before. Every time you hit the milestone and still felt hollow. Every time you succeeded and couldn't stop thinking, is this it? Every time you chose pride over peace because being right felt safer than being real. This stage is that, but without distractions. There's no job, no audience, no way to explain yourself. There's just what's real and whether or not you're willing to face it. So here's the test: if you defend yourself, you fail. If you collapse into guilt, you fail. If you reach for something, anything to escape the discomfort, you lock yourself in. But if you stop resisting just for a second, if you stop chasing, stop justifying, stop reaching, the illusion breaks. That's your fourth chance. And if you're still here, you haven't taken any of them, which brings us to the uncomfortable truth. This system has been trying to wake you up, but the more you IGN it, the harder it pushes. Tomorrow it stops playing nice. You've had 4 exits, 4 opportunities, and if you haven't walked through any of them, the consequences start showing up, not in theory, in experience. Because after this, what you face won't feel like truth, it'll feel like threat. And the scariest part, it's all still coming from you. Day 5 by now, you're not calm anymore. You've missed 4 exits, and something in you knows it. The space around you is shifting. It's not visual anymore, it's visceral. Not images, pressure, and then it hits. Not slowly, not symbolically, suddenly you're face to face with something massive, intense, overwhelming. It doesn't speak, it doesn't ask, it charges. This isn't a demon, this is your own mind fully unleashed. Everything you spent a lifetime pushing down, anger you never expressed, fear you be buried, guilt you rationalized, regret you hoped would fade, all of it comes roaring back in one form. And it doesn't tap politely, it crashes through. It's not here to punish you, it's here to break one final illusion: the idea that you're just a person with a name, a job, a past, a role you played for 50, 60, 70 years. This energy doesn't care about your resume, it's not impressed by your image, it's not afraid of what you've survived. It wants to tear down the mask, not to hurt you, but to wake you. But if you cling to that mask, it feels like attack, like everything's collapsing. Your first instinct, run, but there's nowhere to go. You're not in a place, you're in a process. Try to escape and it reappears. Try to hide and it gets louder, because you're not being chased, you're doing the chasing. This thing isn't coming at you, you're creating it as fast as you run from it. And just when you think it can't get worse, it flips. The energy collapses, not into peace, into nothing. Suddenly there's no fire, no noise, just a void, a total lack of anything familiar, no form, no feedback, no role to play. It's not pain, it's not relief, it's just absence. And that's when real panic sets in. You're not being attacked now, you're being erased. No recognition, no reflection, just the feeling that nothing about you is real or needed or even there. And here's the test: can you hold still when everything, even your identity, starts slipping away? Because if you flinch here, the cycle resets. You'll get hit with the fear again, the rage, the urge to grab control, and each time you react, it locks in tighter. But if you can sit in that pressure without fighting, without reaching, something shifts. If you can look at the chaos and say, this is me, it breaks. Because all of this, what's attacking you, what's scaring you, what's unraveling you, it's projection, your own shadow finally surfacing and recognizing that, really recognizing it not just as an idea, but as fact. That's the only thing that ends the cycle. No mantra, no ritual, just truth. But most people don't make it through this gate, not because they're weak, because they believe it's real. They see the chaos and think it's external. They forget it's theirs. They flinch, and in that flinch they fall. What comes next depends on what you just did. If you recognize the projection, you may have just passed the hardest test in the entire bardo. If you didn't, day 6 won't feel human, and it won't pretend to. Day 6 today feels different. The chaos from before softens, not because you've passed the test, because the test has evolved. You've already seen the loud side of your mind, the part that lashes out, breaks down, loses control. But that's not what shows up today. Now the projection gets smarter, more Calculated. What you face here isn't rage. It's complexity, this time the energy isn't charging at you, it's watching. You're not being attacked, you're being mirrored. What appears now isn't one force but two balanced opposites. Strength and stillness, power and awareness, masculine and feminine, not romantic, not sexual, symbolic, and it hits you. This is the part of your mind that wants to integrate, not dominate, not destroy, unify. But here's the problem. Most people don't know how to handle that. We're wired to split the world. Right and wrong, good and evil, control or surrender. You've spent decades navigating life through these categories. At work, in relationships, in your own self-perception, and now the system is asking you to drop all of it. This is the real challenge today. Your instinct to label everything you'll want. To say this part is bad, that part is good, this part is spiritual, that part is ego, this one is me, that one isn't. But the second you label something as not me, it becomes a threat, and in this space, threats don't go away, they harden, they loop, they become more real. You might start trying to make sense of the experience, break it down, reduce it to some metaphor or symbol. That's the rational mind kicking in, trying to take back control. But this isn't something to explain, it's something to see through. Here's where a lot of people fall into the trap. They think the calm feeling that shows up next is relief, like they've passed something, but it's not a reward. It's just another exit sign back into illusion, a softer loop, because if you move toward comfort without awareness, the cycle continues. So here's the actual decision. Don't react, don't retreat, don't rationalize, just recognize everything happening here. This tension, this duality, this internal conflict, it's not outside of you, it's your own mind trying to come back into alignment. And the only way through isn't force, it's clarity. You stop labeling, you stop managing, you stop dividing yourself into categories that no longer serve you. And in that moment of recognition where you allow everything to exist without judgment, the vision dissolves. That's the way out. And by the way, this wasn't some throwaway stage, it was quieter, more subtle, but no less important. Because if you missed this one, if you labeled your way through it, or numbed out, or followed the illusion of relief, day 7 doesn't pause to help you catch up, it just moves on. And what's coming next doesn't care how confused you are, it's not going to wait for you to be ready. You've been given 6 chances, the next one is your last. Day 8. By now most people have lost track of time. There's no sunrise here, no ticking clock, you're not counting hours, you're floating in something that feels like memory, emotion, and dream all tangled together. And that's the first trap of this stage. It feels normal after everything you've seen. Chaos, fear, pressure. This space feels quiet, safe, almost welcoming. But don't let that fool you, because what's happening now is subtle, and that makes it more dangerous. You've already been through the big stuff. You saw the peaceful visions, you faced the intensity. You may have reacted with fear, maybe confusion, maybe pride, and whether you realized it or not, those reactions started shaping what's happening now. Because this space doesn't punish you, it reflects you. And today the REFL action gets personal. The cosmic symbol fade, the giant figures and flashing lights are gone. Instead, you start seeing familiar things, places you remember, faces you loved. You might hear your name being called in a voice you trust, maybe a parent, a friend, a partner. It feels like home, but it's not. None of it's real. In the way you think, what you're seeing is your own mind playing back the things it's still attached to. And here's why that matters. Everything you hold on to now, every memory, every emotion, every unresolved moment starts pulling you toward a new life, not through decision, but through vibration. You don't get to choose the next life. Like picking from a menu, you get pulled into the next experience by what still has a grip on you. Longing, regret, guilt, desire, even love, if it's rooted in attachment, can start to magnetize you into form. And the longer you follow these familiar images, the stronger that pull gets. Most people don't realize what's happening. They think they're being guided. They think they're going home. They don't see that they're walking back into the cycle with their eyes half closed. This is how the next life starts. Right here, not with a dramatic decision, but with a quiet return to the familiar. And once the momentum picks up, you're not drifting anymore, you're being moved. In ancient traditions, this is the moment where karmic gravity kicks in. Your consciousness aligns with what it never let go of. You're not reacting anymore. You're resonating, and if you don't catch it here, if you don't recognize even These comforting images as illusions you miss your last real chance to break that cycle, but here's the opportunity. You don't have to fight it, you don't have to reject it, you just have to stay aware, see what's happening without reaching for it, let it pass through you without attaching meaning to it. This isn't about intensity anymore, it's about clarity. Can you stay conscious, truly conscious, while everything inside you is trying to bring you back into the dream? Or do you mistake the dream for home? That's the test on day 8, and here's the hard truth. Day 9 isn't louder, it's not darker, but it is more dangerous because now your awareness has started to fade, and what happens next won't look like a test at all. It will look like the next chapter, the next identity, the next you. And if you're not careful, you'll step into it like you always have without realizing it's a loop. Day 9 at this stage, the illusions don't announce themselves, they don't challenge you, they comfort you. You start hearing things that once meant everything, your mother's voice calling your name the way only she could, your first L's laughter echoing in a way that stops you cold, the feeling of walking through the house you grew up in when everything still felt whole, the smell of your father's jacket, the music you played on repeat at 17, back when the future felt wide open. It doesn't feel like a trick, it feels like going home, and that's why it works, because here on day 9 you're not just drifting through memory, you're responding to it emotionally, instinctively. And in this space, emotion is choice. You're not making decisions with thought anymore, you're moving through vibration. Longing pulls, grief pulls harder, love, even love, if it's rooted in attachment, becomes a magnet. And the more you lean in without realizing it, you're shaping what comes next. You're not being punished, you're being pulled by what you couldn't let go of. This is the quiet beginning of the next life. You're not reborn because you failed, you're reborn because part of you still wants to finish something, say something, feel something. And this is how it happens, that flash of memory, that voice, that feeling of belonging. It feels sacred, but if you reach for it, you set the direction, not consciously, not with a plan, but with emotion that hasn't been released. And once that pull locks in, you're no longer floating, you're on your way. The system isn't forcing you back, you're bringing yourself, and that's what almost no one sees, because this moment doesn't feel dangerous, it feels gentle, familiar, like grace. But it's not grace, it's gravity. The Tibetan teachings say this is where the soul stops reacting and starts aligning. You're not choosing a new life, you're defaulting into one, and it's all based on the emotion you're still carrying. So ask yourself, is there something you never said to her, something you still regret with your dad, a version of yourself you still wish you could become? Because those threads are shaping your return right now. And here's the part that matters most. You can still stop it, even now, even this far in. If some part of you sees the pattern, if you recognize these images for what they are, you can break the pull, not by running, not by rejecting it, just by staying fully aware. This isn't about denial, it's about recognition that what you're seeing is not the past, it's you trying to feel whole again. But if you believe it's real, if you follow it blindly, you're already on the way back into form, back into forgetting, back into the cycle. This is the moment when forgetting becomes momentum, and momentum becomes your next life. The doorway is almost gone, the story's almost written, and what happens next depends on whether or not you can let go of what you thought was home. Day 10, by now something's shifted. You're not just floating anymore, you're moving. You don't know where, you don't remember choosing it, but there's a pull, a direction. And here's the part most people miss, you did choose, just not with your head. You've been reacting this whole time to fear, to beauty, to longing, to guilt, and every reaction shaped the path you're on now. This is where your next life begins to take form, not as an idea, as momentum. And it's not dramatic, it's subtle. You might start to feel warmth, like being wrapped in a blanket, or pressure, tightness, like being squeezed into something smaller. You might hear a voice, your dad's voice, calling your name, like he did when you were a kid and stayed out too late, or your daughter's laugh, the one that used to make everything else stop. It doesn't feel threatening, it feels right. It feels like you're going home, but you're not, you're going back. This isn't liberation, this is reincarnation disguised as comfort. The Tibetan teachings say this is the moment where the soul stops seeing and starts defaulting. The energy you've been carrying, the stuff you never dealt with, starts to solidify. Maybe it's that argument you never resolved, the apology you never gave, the way you looked at your life at 48 and thought, this isn't who I thought I'd be maybe it's the feeling of failure you buried under achievement or the anger you swallowed instead of saying what needed to be said or the secret thought you had when your parent passed I wasn't there. Enough all of that's what's shaping what happens next. This isn't karma in some cosmic punishment sense. It's emotional gravity. What you couldn't let go of is now pulling you into form. You're not choosing a new life like picking a job. You're being drawn into the one that matches your state of mind. It might feel like falling asleep in a familiar place or like walking through a doorway without noticing you've crossed a line. Some people describe it as a tunnel, others describe it as warmth, like slipping into a body, and by the time they realize it's happening, it's already too late because this stage doesn't scream, it doesn't challenge you. It seduces you with familiarity, with comfort, with the idea that there's still something left to do, and if you believe that, if you follow it, you return, you forget everything, you start again, another name, another story, another chance to repeat or resolve, but there's still one final window right now. If you can stay conscious, if you can recognize that all of this, even this pull, is coming from your own mind, you can stop it. You don't have to fight, you don't have to run, you just have to see it. This is the moment when forgetting becomes form, and form becomes your next life. But if you can see it just for a breath, without reacting, without attaching the pattern breaks, this is the last moment to wake up, because once this pull becomes identity, once you cross into the next body, everything resets, and you won't even remember this ever happened. Days 11 to 14, the descent into form. At this point, the decision has already been made, not with words, not with a plan, but with what you held on to. You didn't let go, so now the return begins. These last days in the BAU aren't about testing anymore, they're about transition. Your mind, your energy, your sense of self, it all starts narrowing. Less vision, less space, more pull. You're no longer drifting in symbols or memories. You're being funneled toward a new body, a new life shaped by everything you didn't resolve. And here's how it happens. You start sensing people, not abstract figures, but real, specific energy. You might be drawn toward a mother who carries the same emotional wiring you never dealt with, rage, anxiety, emotional distance, or a father whose energy feels familiar, not in a loving way, but in a controlling, unpredictable, or unavailable way that mirrors your own struggle with control or abandonment. You might feel drawn to a life where money is scarce because your last one was defined by the fear of not having enough, or to a body that will carry illness or limitation because deep down you never forgave your old one. Maybe you'll be pulled toward chaos, war, instability, pain, because you left your last life still angry, still blaming, still unresolved, or the opposite. Maybe you're pulled toward comfort, stability, a safe life, not because you're free, but because you were addicted to control, routine, image, so you return somewhere predictable, manageable, numb. Sometimes you're pulled toward the same problems over and over again, just in a different language, a different place, a different set of faces. This isn't karma as punishment. It's karma as gravity. It's attraction based on vibration, what you feared, what you wanted, what you still think you are. And here's the brutal truth. By now, you're not questioning any of this. You're not seeing the illusion. You're buying into it. It feels right, familiar, like a story you forgot you were writing. You might get flesh as a woman's body, a man's voice, the tension of an argument, a sense of needing to become someone again. Some feel excited, like starting fresh. Some feel fog numb, confused, as if slipping into sleep. Some feel pain, especially if the next body is already entering difficulty. But very few feel clarity, because by now, you've forgotten you ever had it. This is the final stretch. You're not being reborn into a life because it's your destiny. You're being reborn because your emotional blueprint found a place to continue. Your next life isn't random. It's a continuation of everything you refused to let go of, the ego you protected for 70 years, the guilt you never said out loud, the grief you managed by staying busy, the love you held so tight it turned into fear of losing it, the ambition that never felt like enough, the apology you never gave, the moment you knew you should have changed but didn't. All of that becomes the gravity that pulls you into form. And here's the part no one sees. You think you're starting over, but you're just picking up where you left off, in a new place, in a new body, with no memory of what just happened, no awareness that this was even a Choice. This is the end of the Bardo. It doesn't close with fanfare. It closes with silence, and you once again become a story the soul is now circling. The moment of conception. According to the Tibetan text, this is when karmic energy guides you toward parents whose vibration matches your unresolved desires and emotional state. You don't choose based on preference, you choose based on frequency. You're drawn to what reflects you, your past patterns, your unfinished stories. And as that resonance grows stronger, the entry point begins to open. Contact is near. The soul begins to move toward union, male and female energies, forming a vessel. You may feel intense emotion, craving, attraction, confusion, even discomfort. That's the soul responding to the magnetism of rebirth. But you no longer remember the process. You don't question where you are or what. This means the decision is happening beneath awareness, and by the end of this day, the soul may already be entering the physical. Then rebirth is underway. The soul attache's identity begins to reset. The memory of the BAU, the clarity, the moments of choice all fade. You don't feel like you're being reborn. You feel like you're beginning, but you're not beginning anything new. You're continuing the same story, just with a different face. Unless something intervenes, the cycle resets. Here, another life, another loop. The soul is now embedded in the physical. Conception has occurred. You are no longer hovering. You're inside, but you don't know it. You feel confined, disoriented, perhaps even numb. The Bardo fades like a distant dream, and what replaces it is a growing sense of presence in something small, enclosed, foreign. You're inside a womb. The cycle is already repeating, but the memory of how you got here is gone. You begin to identify the emotional energy you carried from your last life now filters into the body. You're entering the mind is blank, but the karmic imprint remains. How you feel, how you react, what you fear or desire in this next life, all of it is shaped by this imprint. You're not choosing your life consciously, but it's being shaped by the parts of you that never healed. The door has closed. You are inside the body. The bee is over. You no longer remember what just happened. No clear light, no illusions, no test. That awareness is sealed away like a book closed too early. Now the soul rests in silence, waiting to grow, waiting to emerge, but it is not free. It is repeating. You've passed the halfway point of the Bardo. At first the visions were overwhelming, lights, deities, illusions, all reflecting parts of you you didn't recognize. The clear light offered liberation, the peaceful guides offered direction, the wrathful visions tried to wake you up, and when none of it worked, something else took over. Not fear, not chaos, but familiarity. The illusion stopped confronting you and started comforting you. That's when the real pull began. You were no longer reacting. You were following. You didn't realize it, but your thoughts, your emotions, your unspoken attachments were shaping your path forward. And by the time you felt yourself moving again, it wasn't upward. It was inward, toward form, toward identity, toward another life. And now you're inside it. The BAU isn't behind you. It's sealed off. You've entered a body. You don't remember doing it. You don't remember anything that came before. The light, the test, the choice, all of it is fading into a silence you can't reach anymore. Your consciousness shrinks not into darkness, but into limitation. This new life is beginning the same way your last one did, quietly, innocently. You'll soon open your eyes, take your first breath, and think it's the first time, but it isn't. This is the cycle, the same patterns, the same desires, the same karmic echoes waiting for you the moment you're born. And unless something interrupts it, you will live this life the same way you lived the last, unaware of what's underneath it all. The ancient masters weren't trying to scare us, they were trying to prepare us. Because death is not the test. This is right now in this life, the way you live, the way you think, the attachments you carry, the fears you avoid, the truths you silence. These are the things that shape what happens after your last breath. Not judgment, not fate, but your own mind. The be doesn't begin when you die, it begins the moment you forget who you really are. And most people are already deep inside it right now. The real question isn't what happens after death, it's have you already forgotten. Because if the cycle is this quiet, you won't even know you're repeating it. But if you're hearing this, if you've made it this far, then some part of you is already waking up, and that changes everything. If you found this eye-opening and want to go even deeper, there's much more waiting for you. Watch the next video in the playlist and discover just How deep the cycle really goes. Drop a stay aware in the comments if you're ready to break free from the illusions. And don't forget to subscribe to the free newsletter below, where we share teachings and truths you won't find anywhere else, because some knowledge is too powerful for the mainstream. Thank you for your time till the next one.